And okay, we're live.
All right, what's happening, everybody? It is time for another Accountability Success Circle webinar. This is webinar number 40. I can't believe that we have done 40 of these thus far. And I think this one is going to be one of the best because we are going to be talking about a very powerful technique so that you can start 2023 on the right foot. And I know what you may be thinking, Gary, 2023, like I'm still trying to jump into 2020. I totally get it. And that's why I feel this material is going to be so important for you. And as you can see over here, we have a guest, and this is my really good friend. We go all the way back to 2008. Yes, we go that far. And it is my really good friend, Stephanie Garcia. Hello, Stephanie. How are you doing?
Hello. How you doing, friend?
Awesome. And if you are not a friend or a fan of Stephanie, you need to. So let me just like sort of love on Stephanie real quick. Stephanie, man, she's had such an amazing career adventure. So we first met in digital marketing, and she was, to be honest, one of the first people to jump on the social media bandwagon. And she was like, hey, this is super awesome. And as a result of that, and just her curiosity and her desire to learn and better herself, I like to think that she is crushing it. And currently, she is the founder of Captivate on Command and the host of Lights Camera Live. And one of the things that she does, one of the many things, is that she helps brands succeed on camera. So, Stephanie, hopefully I'm looking good. I'm doing it right.
You look good. You sound good. You feeling good?
I'm feeling good. Awesome. And she is a Master Neuro Linguistic Programming practitioner. Drop that right there. So we're going to get deep into the brain and whatnot. So everyone, round of applause for Stephanie Garcia. So Stephanie, real quick before we jump into the material, give us some of your backstory, your origin story. I just teed him up. I gave him a little taste. How about you give him the whole meal?
The whole buffet. This is what I will tell you. So what Gary didn't tell you is, yes, I am an ad agency veteran. I spent the last decade and a half deep in the trenches of agency life, doing all the things, paid media, SEO, social media. And as I worked my way to the top, what I realized is that the way to really stand out from the sea of sameness is to really be confident in how you communicate. Because eventually down the line, when you have to pitch clients on what it is exactly that you do, what separates you from everyone else is that you have to communicate with clarity. You have to take the mess out of your messaging so that way when you are sharing your pitch, right, you could ignite your ideas. You could be brilliant in the boardroom and captivate on command. And so one of the best ways for me to actually go about that, well, the first one was really improv with Gary, and that really helped me think more on my feet and to answer questions on the fly and like build a story and build on a pitch with my team, which is why I love so much of what Gary does. But on top of that too, it was really, how do I communicate with confidence? Because let's be honest, communication is like water. There's not a single day that doesn't go by that you are not communicating, whether you're communicating to your spouse, your partner, your kids, but most importantly, how are you communicating with yourself? Because let's be honest, more often than not, we talk ourselves into doing things. And then what do? Fear, uncertainty, doubt, we talk ourselves out of it, right? And so when I learned about this, I had discovered my first mentor, which was Michael Burnoff, and it was really all about NLP, so Neuro Linguistic Programming, which, long story short, it's the user manual for your mind. Because if you knew what your habits and your strategies are, how they were formed, right? That's how you came to be where you are today. You are the sum total of your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Let's just be honest. That's what it is. And so at some point you have to decide. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And so what I don't change, I choose. And so if I want something different, then what is it that I have to do? So most importantly, based on this whole conversation, is you have to understand what your beliefs are, what your values are, what your attitudes are. And I think now is really a good time to talk about that, especially as we enter into the new year. Does that work? Did I cover
Oh
it?
my
Yeah.
gosh. Hello. Yes. Oh my gosh. That was so amazing. So she's already dropping the knowledge bombs. All right, so before we pack open and rip out all of these nuggets, want to say what's up to our regulars that are on. We have Dee, we have Terry. If you're watching, don't just be a lurker. Jump into the chat, say hello, ask some questions. We are going to be talking about beliefs, so this is your chance to get anything, off of your chest. What questions do you have about beliefs? How do we change them? We're going to be answering a lot of those, but if you have some very specific questions, please drop into the chat. This is your chance to get some coaching from Stephanie. She normally charges a lot of money for her one-on-one sort of consulting, so this is your chance to get it on the cheap. This is our holiday special for you all. So having said that, yes, our theme this month in the AFC is all about beliefs, and as you can see, I got my Ted Lasso belief thing right there. But we're really focusing on our belief structure, how it's formed, and more importantly, how we can shift it. So, Stephanie, what is a belief?
Yeah. Beliefs are things that we hold to believe are absolutely true. So a belief could be something like more money, more problems,
Yes.
or work hard, play hard. That's a belief. Sometimes people have the belief that the only time that they could really have fun is if they do the hard work first, because that's what they were taught to believe. And so oftentimes, even in just working with clients, I would always ask them, like, so when did you start believing that? Because at some point, a belief comes to life because you accepted that belief, whether that belief was passed on to you by your parents or your school or your teachers, your peers, or the music that you listen to. Like, let me tell you, there's a lot of Notorious B.I.G. that I had to stop listening to because I was like, no, more money, no problems. Right? But beliefs are really those things that you hold to believe are true. And sometimes if there's a certain direction that you want to go to, but your values, your beliefs, and your attitudes don't align with that particular goal, the thing is that your conscious mind is the goal setter, but your unconscious mind is the goal getter. And if your goal getter, your unconscious mind, your values, beliefs, and attitudes don't align with the goal that you have out there, that's where you see self-sabotage actually happening. That's where you see inconsistency happening. And to shift your beliefs is to come full face and be like, well, when did I start believing that? And because I believe that, how is that impacting me in all areas of my life, whether it's business, personal, relationship, marriage, all the things, money, health, etc. I know.
Oh my gosh.
I've had my drink. I'm on this.
Right? She is on fire. So to that point, it is the things that you deem to be true. Now, as Stephanie mentioned, especially with our training with NLP, our brain is just the operating center for everything. And, we have these beliefs because they're shortcuts, right? They help us so that we're not thinking, all right, how do I put on my shoe? And like, that would just be so overwhelming. And beliefs aren't a bad thing. They make things easier for us. The challenge is, as Stephanie mentioned, like when we have these beliefs that were installed in us, and then we are just sort of operating, and it's like it's not serving us. One of the I'm laughing because my mom, she's hilarious, and a lot of moms, especially some old fashioned moms, like they have these things that they say, and then like as kids, like we don't question it. It's like, oh, mom said that, like, right? We're told to listen to authorities. Our parents are authorities. We don't question it. But then like as you get older, you're like, this is silly, and and so some of these are silly, and then you can like sort of talk yourself and like, all right, is this really true? No, it's not true. And then you can sort of think about times when you've seen other things, and then boom, you snap out of it. But and so I'm going to tell you a silly one in just a moment. But a lot of them we don't question, and then we wonder why we're having such challenges. So one that is very silly, and it wasn't until my wife Courtney, was pregnant with our first child, Garrett, that I'm like, wait a second, this is very weird. My mom, God bless her soul, she got this from her mom, who probably got it from her mom, was like, don't ever touch a pregnant woman's belly button because it is going to disturb the baby. And I was like, okay, all right. That was the thing. And I laugh because that is not based in fact. It is not based in science. But for the longest time, like, I was like, oh, no, don't do that. Again, why would you want to touch someone's belly button? I don't know. But I remember very vividly when my baby sister was pregnant and someone like poked her belly button. My mom freaked out. Don't touch the belly button. It's going to hurt the baby. And so, anyways, and that just became like that sort of belief. Stephanie, do you have any silly beliefs that maybe came from family that, again, they're silly. They're they don't really mean anything.
Okay, so this actually just happened this morning. So Brandon is over here at the house, and he's walking around with no socks. I have hardwood floors, and I was like, "Aren't your feet cold?" And he's like, "Well, I would wear slippers, but you don't have slippers in the house, right?" And I was like, "Well, I was over at Walgreens and I actually saw house slippers with like the fur lining and stuff." I was like, "I'll go with you, and we could buy slippers together, but I'm not going to buy you slippers." And he's like, "Wait, what?" And I was like, "Yeah, because we have this belief in my family that if you buy shoes for someone or slippers for someone, they will walk away from you." And I was like, "I don't want you to walk away." And he's just like, "Oh, that's just a silly thing." And I was like, "I don't know. It's just, I was like, so I will never buy you shoes. I will go with you and I'll, help you pick a color and a size and stuff." But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's like, it sounds like the silliest thing, but it's what I hold to believe as true. And that's the thing, is that sometimes our beliefs don't have to be validated by anyone else. It's just something in me. It's a part of my personality. It's what makes me unique. It's my quirkiness and whatnot, but it's a belief that I have. On the flip side of that, I mean, you could also have beliefs like Marie Forleo, everything is figure outable. That's her belief. And it's a belief that she passed on to a lot of other entrepreneurs. When I think about money, I have this belief, and it's this unshakable belief that money comes to me easily, effortlessly, consistently, and without any drama. I just
say that again. Say that again for the people in the back. We gotta one more time. And if you're listening, write this down. This is like genius.
So this is my belief. My belief is that money comes to me easily, effortlessly, and consistently, and without any drama. That's my belief. Yeah, that's my belief. Wherever it comes from, or, like if I find a penny on the floor or whatever, I just know that it's always going to come to me when I need it. I just say, "Okay, universe, come to me. Like, I need something, I need to pay for something." I also have this belief, just to share with you, I have this belief that money is just an exchange of energy. And so when I spend my money, it's just energy. And so when I put my energy out there, it comes back to me 10 times. And so if I have to pay a bill, I'll pay that bill because I know that's going to come back to me 10 times in a good way, right? And so it's like, let me pay for something, because I know if I pay for something, then it's going to come back to me 10 times. And so oftentimes, even when I'm working with clients and they're like, no, you don't have to pay for this. I'm like, do not block the flow of my energy. Because if you block the flow of my energy, which is the money, then you're messing up my flow. You're messing up my income. Does that make sense?
Yep. Makes perfect sense. Yeah. And I love this. Again, what I'm hearing you say is, we have these beliefs, that are empowering, and then they support us. And, once you have that belief, you start to see it, everywhere. And then it reinforces, and that belief, boom, 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 becomes solid. One of the things that I learned from improv is that, we talk about mistakes, and mistakes are gifts. I've been training in improv for like the last 12 or so years, and it's from day one, there is no such thing as a mistake. Everything is a gift. And failure is just, first time, was it first attempt in learning. Yeah.
Yep.
And so that again is repeated over and over again. Matter of fact, every time we make a mistake in improv class, we celebrate it. And so that just becomes just how I think. And I forget that not everyone has the same belief structure as you. And I was talking to a really good friend, and and they were like, we were talking about like just things that they, aspired to do. And then they, mentioned, that they didn't do, something. And then it's like, oh, you failed. Oh, that's awesome. And you should have saw their face. It was like, they like seriously got like the pouty lips. I'm like, what's wrong? And I forgot, again, not everyone shares that belief that failure isn't a bad thing. And they were like, yeah, I made it. And then they were getting down on themselves, and I had to like pump the brake. I had to rewind, like, oh, and so anyways, so that's the thing with beliefs. And when you have ones that are empowering, they will help push you along, especially when things are challenging.
Yes, agree. Like even recently I was talking to someone, and I was like, what are your goals for 2023? And when this person had rattled them off, it felt more like a to-do list. And I was just like, okay, where's the passion in that? Where's the excitement? Where's like, are you even scared? Is that actually a really, really big goal for you? They're like, no. I'm like, so let's be honest. Big goals create bigger results. Little goals create little results. So if you really want to make this quantum leap from where you are today to where it is that you want to be, then you have to make a big leap. So what is that goal that you have to do, that you have to make, that will make that big shift for it to happen? Because you'll notice that when you actually think bigger with your goals and bigger with your beliefs, then there's this different drive, there's this different passion to it, Like, for example, in our NLP coachings, one of my students was just like, yeah, I want to make 6 figures a year, or like 6 figures. Just like, yeah, I've done it before, and And it was just like, well, that sounds boring. Or like, well, why don't you make it 7 figures? She was like, whoa, I hadn't even thought about that. Because to be where it is that you want to be, you have to have a different set of beliefs. Let's be honest. Yeah. What got you in your business in the first 0 to 5 years is very different from the tools, strategies, and techniques. Is going to be different for where you want to be in your business years 6 and 10 and forever and so on. So it's like the beliefs that you have now, some that are good and some that may be actually detrimental. It's you have to question, you have to ask yourself, okay, so what did that do for me? If I want to be the CEO of a multinational company, what are the certain beliefs, values, and attitudes to someone that I look up to that they currently have? Because I could always model after them, right? How is it that Stephanie never has to worry about bills? It's because I have the belief that money comes to me easily, effortlessly, consistently, without any drama. So if you ever wanted to emulate that, you have to know, what are my values, beliefs, and attitudes when it comes to money? So like, I'll even give you an example. Some people, when they think about selling or sales, they think that it's icky. They feel that it's icky, where I have the belief, like, I am solving a problem for you. This is finally the day that you are going to realize this is the difference that makes the difference. This is the day I'm actually giving you a gift. I am giving you my time, talent, and energy, because again, money is just an exchange of energy. I am going to exchange energy with you. So that way we're taking away the bad, the ick, the cringe, or whatever, and fulfilling it with something new. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes perfect sense.
Okay.
Oh my God. So I'm gonna pump the brakes. A few things in the chat. First and foremost, we got Hannah. Hannah is there. What's up, Hannah? Thank you for being awesome. And all your support. Love you. Appreciate you. We also, one thing I want to bring up, April, we were talking about sort of old wives' tales and stuff like that. And April had mentioned that her mom believes that there are living creatures in the sink and doesn't want to pour hot water down the drain without warning them first. Again, yeah, that's funny. And, Very, very kind. I get it. Like, yeah, if you have that belief, again, it enforces all your actions. So if you have this belief that there are living creatures, in the sink, and you also have a belief that you don't want to hurt people, yeah, your actions would be to, hey, I'm about to pour some hot water, get out of the way, sort of situation, so that Remy, if you've seen Ratatouille, like, hey, Remy, get out of the way. And then D, I want to, because I feel like we're going on this route right now. Uh, D, I had mentioned, I've been working on thinking of money with an abundance mindset for several years now. Been living with a scarcity mindset since I was little. Has been helpful, but need to keep on working on it. So this is a great sort of point of, definitions are important. So Stephanie, what is your definition of a limiting belief?
Mm. Limiting belief are the ones that keep you stuck. And so it likes to put you in a box. It likes to put you in a label. Here's the thing is that when we think about beliefs, so you and I kind of touched upon this in the sense that beliefs can be passed on to you. It could be taught to you unconsciously through the music or the videos or the movies that you watch, read, and all the different things. But really, beliefs are an extension of our values, of what we value, of what we find most important in our lives. And if you think of it kind of like a cup holder, like with hooks on it, what we value in our life, once you have a value of like, to me, money is important. And so I have the belief and it hooks onto it. I have a belief that money is an exchange of energy. I have a belief around that says that money comes to me easily, effortlessly, and consistently. I have a belief that money is opportunity. So it's kind of like this, all of the beliefs that you have is a cluster around a value. And so a limiting belief is sometimes tied to the values that you have in your life. And sometimes if a value is lower on your hierarchy of values, that's where you could find the limiting beliefs that stop you because it's not as important. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. So to that point, say, we'll use D's point as an example. Someone that is trying to bring more money, into their lives, and they hear you and they like, repeating, the things that you're saying.
Sure.
However, I know that you can't just repeat it and it to be true.
No, it's not. You have to shift your thinking and sorry to like jump in.
No, it's all good. So how can they they know when it's out of alignment, and what can they do to start to shift those things?
Yeah. Okay. So in this particular example, just even having that awareness that D is coming away from a scarcity mindset and wants to transition to having an abundance mindset. It's just like training for a marathon, right? It's not a light switch. It's the current state and the desired state are too far apart. So there's certain things that need to happen to start loosening, like WD-40. How do you loosen that current belief? And so the current belief that's still installed at this moment is the scarcity mindset. So you have to ask yourself, what are my thoughts about money? How do I feel about this money? Because sometimes if I asked you, okay, think about money. If I asked you, if you think about money, what does that look like, sound like, feel like? And you could tell me if that picture, is it black and white or is it in color? Is it near or is it far? Is it picture or is it framed? But everyone has an idea of what money looks like, sounds like, or feels like. Money could even have like a cha-ching. Maybe that's what you hear when you think about the word money. But you have a picture of what money actually looks like. And when you look at this picture in your mind's eye, you also have to ask yourself, what are my feelings towards it? And if there's any negative feelings towards money, those are the things that you have to clear out first. Again, this is loosening that belief. And so when I say negative feelings could be anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt. And when you let go of those negative feelings around that particular belief, then it falls off, kind of like Tetris, like, right? And then it's like, then you could start building a new belief. So you have to ask yourself, when I think about money, what are the feelings, what are the emotions that come up? And it could be like, oh, well, I know what it feels like to be in debt. And so I have fear. And so these emotions may come up, but I mean, as an NLP, trainer, the thing is that we address that and we say, okay, great. I mean, I understand that had happened. I came from a household where my parents were divorced, single mom, 3 kids, right? But I have to ask myself, okay, there was this fear of not knowing, we usually in my family, you would have one casserole and that's what you ate for the whole entire day. There was never breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's basically, here's what was last night and that's your leftovers. When there's no more, then we'll make something new. Yeah. And so you have to ask yourself, if I were to go back in time, that first experience of when I experienced that negative emotion of anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt, don't be in it. Don't be looking through your own eyes. Actually float above like your timeline and just look down and just ask yourself, what's the lesson that I need to learn that I could take with me in the future that will help me so that way I could have the abundance mindset? And so let's say for me, like, I remember when we were in college and we would have like on campus, they would try sign up for a free credit card and you'll get all this, you'll get a radio, right? And so I had this fear of being in debt and just getting hit with another surcharge or my bank account being overdrafted. I know that feeling, that dread, that despair, and I know that feeling, but what can I take from that experience? It's not that money is bad. It's not that credit cards are bad, because people could have a belief that says credit cards are bad. In actuality, credit cards are good because they give you travel points. But what can I take from that experience? And I can learn that, a positive learning is I may not have learned about money from my family, but that doesn't mean that I don't have access to information. I have the internet at my fingertips. So knowledge is power. And if I want to learn about money, then I can learn how to do better with my money. I can learn how to budget. I can learn, right? Because it wasn't like I was a bad person. It's not the belief that I'm bad with money. It's not the belief that credit cards are bad. It's what can I take from that experience and create it into like a skill set that I could take with me and move towards the future. Does that make sense? Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. You start off with the belief and you start just kind of like snipping the wires. If it was like a ticking time bomb, anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt. What is this negative emotion that I have around this belief? It could even be around health, right? And losing weight if you wanted to do that. But you have to ask yourself, what is that negative emotion? Because it's that negative emotion that ties us down. That's the thing that plays in our head that gives us anxiety at night or whatever, because your unconscious mind is basically saying like, hey, you need to face this and we need to figure out what's the positive learning that we can take with us. And that's how you start making your step towards an abundance mindset. It's not the mantras. It's not, I have to repeat this to myself. It's really, you have to loosen the current belief that you have right now. So that way it no longer feels as if it's true. Because let's be honest, and here's the thing, whatever happened in the past because that was the best that you could do with the resources that you had. 18-year-old Stephanie walking around campus, first one in my family, didn't know the power of credit scores because no one had ever taught me that. Who I am today, I know so much more, right? So my belief system, my structure is completely different from who I was back then. So why beat myself up for things that I didn't even have resources to back then? It doesn't make any sense. Okay.
Yes. Well, to that point, how everything is sort of interweaved. And so I'll tell you a quick story that I worked through, especially going through, things like micro burn-offs program and whatnot, is like he would ask things like that, like, all right, money, like, what is money to you? And I was like, oh yeah, money is, essential. And I got that. But then he asked another question. All right, cool. What about making money? And then that was the thing that was the trigger for me, because it reminded me of my dad. My dad was the one who made all the money for the family, and my dad was always gone. And then I was like, oh, well, I don't want to, like, again, it was so weird because I never thought of it like that until like I got that prompt.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, I don't want to always be gone from my kids and stuff like that. And it's like, all right,
then
cool.
You don't want to make money. Yeah.
Exactly. See? And then it's like, all right. So then it's like, all right, because it was tied to that. So then it's to your point of like, well, everyone did the best that they can with what they have. Does that mean that you have like, and so, but it's interesting because all these things are on autopilot. This is our unconscious system just working in the background. And until you bring it to the surface and start asking these questions, and then doing some reframing and some of these amazing Jedi tricks that Stephanie has up her sleeve, you're going to get frustrated because you're going to be on a program like this. You're going to write down these affirmations. You're going to be like, all right, cool. And then you're going until you start to do the work and then go back and sort of clean up some of these things, you're going to get frustrated because you're like, why isn't it working?
Why isn't it working? Yeah.
So anyways, oh man.
Can I add a little bit more to it?
Please go. So, okay. Throw it.
I mean, just because money usually pops up whenever I'm working with my clients, especially the entrepreneurial ones. And I would ask them well, what is your relationship with money? And they're like, what do you mean? I was like, well, when was the last time that you touched money? When was the last time you went on a date with money? I like to call him Ben because, Ben's the $100 bill. I'm like, when was the last time you checked up on him? Or you just leave him at the bank and you just expect him to show up? You don't even talk to him. You don't even ask him about his day. And you just want him to come and just shower you? Come on, right? If that was a relationship in real life, right, that would be a toxic relationship. So what is your relationship? Do you talk to your money? Do you reach out for it? Is it actually within arm's reach? Let me tell you, maybe again, this is a Filipino thing, but I hide money in my drawers in my house because I want this belief again, that money comes to me easily, effortlessly, and consistently. And so if I open a drawer and I see a $5 bill or $10 bill or whatever, it just reinforces that belief and I could just close that drawer again because I know that wherever I go, it's always going to be there. And so even just asking yourself, what is your relationship with money? How do you feel about it? When you look at a dollar bill, $10 bill or whatever, what is that? When you hold a credit card, what is that you feel? When you look at a bill, what is it that you feel? Something to think about.
Yes. And comment over here from D. D said, exactly. When I think about money, there's not much, and the feeling is fear. I always afraid that I'll spend too much and it's my fault, even though I'm spending so I can make money. What's your thought on that?
Spending money to make money.
Well, she said fear. She has this fear that she's going to go overboard and spend too much money, and then maybe she's going to be in debt or something like that. But she knows that she needs to spend money to make money. So I feel like there's a conflict.
Yeah.
And D, correct me if I'm wrong. That's just my interpretation of what you said.
And so again, you would ask yourself, well, where did that fear come from? And it probably came from an event. And so you have to go back to that event and be like, okay, what are the positive learnings that I can take with me in the future? Because maybe you just didn't know. Maybe you didn't have the resources. Maybe you just weren't taught. But again, you're here now and you're already taking steps towards making a better version of you. And so when you address what happened in the past, you're what are the positive things that I need to know? That way you could release the fear. There's no point in you holding on to the fear. Fear is only there to protect you from a certain thing. And so once you understand what is that thing that is trying to protect you from, then you could actually build the strategies and the resources for it. So I know she's typing in the chat. I can't see it, but that's really what it boils down to. It's because, spending too much. Okay. I could go, how many times have we all walked in Target and spent a little bit more than we thought that we should? But I'm not scared of that. Why would I be scared of that? Mm-hmm. So you have to ask yourself, what is that fear? Is it because of being overdrafted or or is it shame? Is it guilt? What specifically about it is causing that fear? And again, I don't know because I'm not there in the comments. But I could overspend and not be fearful. Does that make sense?
Yep, makes perfect sense. And I want to really highlight what you talk about sort of fear. And fear is there to protect us.
Yes.
Fear is not a bad thing. No, it's just sometimes our interpretation of the event causes the fear to happen, in the future. So, for example, when we were kids, or at least I know I did this. We had one of those electric stoves, so it wasn't fire, it was electric stove where it gets really hot. And I remember touching it, and realizing ooh, that burned. And so again, it was ingrained in my brain, do not touch that. So again, so I don't make the same mistake twice. I shouldn't touch that. Again, my brain is you remember what happened last time? Don't do that.
Yeah.
However, we have these things that are a bit ambiguous. I know, for a fact that I wasn't as intelligent with money. Again, I didn't have those positive influences on that, growing up. And so I remember time getting those letters and feeling shame and embarrassed of like, hey, you're overdrawn this, that, and the other. And so like, it's like the brain saying, hey, don't do that again. And it's attaching that event to anything. Like, so like, oh, gotta spend money. You remember last time, and then like you said.
Okay. And so like, even with that, I would say, okay, I get that. So what's the positive learning that you could take from actually getting that bill that you could take with you? And you may say to yourself like, oh, I should spend money on things that are most important to me, not the things, the shiny objects and blah, blah. And so when you decide that, like, oh, actually, it's okay for me to spend money if it's on things that I know that are going to help me grow my brand and my bottom line, then it's okay to spend money. No, but spending
agreed.
money or overspending money on things that you don't need, that's a bad thing. It's just taking the same idea of overspending and separating them into two separate ideas. When is it a good time to overspend and when is it a bad time to overspend?
Yep. Agreed. And then I think the main thing is going back to the event. And most people are scared because, again, you get this uneasy feeling. But I love the techniques that you gave of like, don't look at it in first person, hover above the event and look down so that you are getting the lessons, look down on yourself in the event and like understand what are the learnings. I know the thing for me, it's realizing that, hey, you have the ability to budget. You have the ability to know when you're getting close to your limit.
It's like, okay. And so when Gary and I say, don't look at it as if it's in first person, that means don't look at the event as if you're looking through your own eyes. Take that memory and put it on the screen and act as if you're watching from a movie and you're seeing in, the audience, the movie theater. And you're like, girl, you just need a budget. you're like yelling at the screen and you're just saying, these are, what she needs? She just needs this. That's basically what you're doing when we're saying you're hovering above the event. You're just looking down on the event, not looking through your own eyes. So I just want to make that clarity because to me, when I first learned that, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes, exactly. And if you were at our ASC retreat in October, we did something very similar to that. So that should, boom, instantly come back to your memory and you remember how much fun it was and how we were able to tackle something that was a little bit fearful. And we did it with fun and play. And going back to Dee, Dee mentioned that she's gone through several periods in her life where money was suddenly gone and she was in periods of extreme debt. She's probably still feeling that fear, guilt, shame, not feeling that way. Not feeling that way is something I need to change. Yes, and shift that because this is one of the things that I've learned going through this is that when you have a certain mindset, you behave in a certain way. And then it's one of those things where it's like, all right, if you don't learn from your past, you're bound to repeat those same lessons.
Yeah. And so in NLP, we have this belief that like when a problem arises and it's not addressed, the universe will most likely keep bringing it in front of you to be like, you need to face this. You need to change this because nothing changes. If nothing changes, what you don't change, you choose. And the reason why it keeps popping up is because you're not actually changing it. So however, which way you've been trying to solve this, maybe you've been trying to solve that the same exact way and it's not working. So again, nothing changes if nothing changes. What do you need to do differently to make sure that this time around in 2023, it's going to be different? So when would now be a good time to let go of that embarrassment, that shame, and that guilt? Because it's not serving you whatsoever.
Yep. And so that's a perfect segue. Like, so I think of playing cards as, just fun, it's a way to play. And when you allow yourself to play with the material, like your past and stuff like that, you can snap and then you can let go of that belief and then that money can start to flow to you easily and effortlessly. So just remember, is all about like, hey, how can we get into a state of play so that we can learn from the past and not be handcuffed by it.
Yeah, handcuffed by it. I love that one.
Bam! Yeah. Oh my God! Oh, so I just get right. I get so excited about talking about this stuff. Yeah. So all right. So we gave some really good examples about how we can have events that happen in our life which trigger beliefs, and then it guides our actions in the future. Because again, our brain is just an operating system, and its number one job is to keep you alive. So, and it wants to use as little resources as possible. So it's going to pull from previous things to help you guide, in the future. And so my invite to everyone who's watching, regardless if you're watching live or watching the replay, is think about like, what are the things that you aspire to do in 2023? And do like what Stephanie said, and like ask the question of, hey, how do I feel about that? And start to do the digging, to go back, to find out, where is that coming from, and start to like, cut those little cables,
The wires,
so
yeah.
that you can, start to have a flat plane surface. And so one thing that I want to bring up that you briefly touched on is modeling, because once we start to remove some of those limiting beliefs, the things that are potentially hindering us from succeeding, we want to start to build new references and whatnot. And I feel like the fastest way is to find someone who has already done it and start to adapt their belief structure. So can you, talk a little bit more about that, Stephanie?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. Yesterday I went indoor rock climbing with Brandon, and it's been a while. Do you remember when you and I used to go rock climbing all the time?
Yeah.
So it's been a while, and there was this one route that I was going through, and there was this piece of it that was an obstacle. And the first time I tried, it didn't work. So then I was like, okay, nothing changes. If nothing changes, I got to do something different. And so the second time around, I hit this obstacle, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try this. And I tried it, and boom, I leaped above it, and I broke through that barrier. And so now it was Brandon's turn. And Brandon saw that I already done it. And so he asked me, and he was like, so what did you do? And I was like, oh, I just did this thing, and I swung past it and da-da-da-da. And he was like, okay. I was like, well, what did you say to yourself when you were doing it? Oh, I said to myself, it's okay, because I'm in my harness, so I'm not going to fall anyway. Just go for it. Just go for it is what I said to myself. And he was like, okay, what else? Because he wanted to get into my mindset. So when we talk about that, it's like, if you want to model after someone, you have to model their values, beliefs, and their attitudes. And so my attitude was like, it's okay if I didn't get it the first time. I'll get it the next time. My belief was, it's okay, I could try again. My belief is I can do hard things, right? And so I told him all that, and then it was his turn. And then so he got there, he got to that part. And then I saw him do what it is I did. And he swung himself, and he got over the barrier, and he broke through. So when we talk about modeling after others, you have to sit down. I'm like, Gary, how is it that you're Gary? What makes you Gary? What are your values, your beliefs, your attitudes? Because that's what you want to model after. Like, you can't be Gary and be shutting down stages at getting people laughing if you don't have the belief that play is fun and play is required. If you don't have that belief, you can't have that same charismatic energy or that flow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And so to that point, like, it reminds me of another burn-off training where we were learning about modeling. And so he said, as a way to prove it, because he's all about experiential and doing it. So he got someone who was a phlebotomist, and he's like, hey, I want you to teach us how to draw blood.
Yes.
And they're like, what? And you're like, yeah. You're going to teach us right here, right now. We're going to learn how to draw blood. And so you're like, all right, take us through, like, what's going through. And the interesting thing is, when you have someone who's done it so many times, they have shortcuts. These are called heuristics. It comes
naturally to them. Yep.
So they don't think about these things. And so they do these shortcuts. And then if you so my point is, if you were to just go and follow someone that you just see on social media, you're probably going to miss some steps. You're like, oh, yes, hey, I did exactly how they did it. Why isn't it working? You have to ask the questions. And so one of the things that we learned, we started asking them a question like, oh, right there, when, so she was tapping the arm, like, what are you thinking right now in this moment? What do you feel it? And like, what are you going through? And one thing, boom, this was like the thing that lit us all up, is that she had said the reason why she is able to draw blood with someone and they don't cry and stuff like that, she builds rapport with them, but she doesn't realize that she's doing that. She doesn't realize that she's having this conversation, making them feel comfortable with her. And then two, the other thing that she does, again, that they don't teach you in phlebotomist school and stuff like that, she's feeling for she called it like elasticity. So like the vein is going to push back almost like a rubber band, and that's what she's looking for. Again, if you were to just see it in like a manual, like you would miss these little things, and then you try to replicate them, and then what's going to happen? You're not going to get the same results. So you make up a really great point about getting into the psyche of the person doing it.
You have to ask the very specific questions. Yeah. And I love that you expanded on that in the sense that when you're a master of your craft, there are certain things that you delete, you distort, and you generalize because it comes so easy to you. And so when someone is trying to learn from you, they have to ask the right questions. So what are you saying to yourself? So when you do that, why do you do that? Like, why are your feet positioned that way? You know, we did this when we were breaking boards, when we were bending spoons. There are often times where I would just stand in front of my students and I'm like, okay, I'm going to break this, 1-inch board. Boom. And I do it. What do you need to know? And they're like, well, like, did you breathe beforehand? Like, what is it that you had to do? And I say this because even when you're pitching your services, how do you become confident when you're about to pitch your services? There's a certain strategy that they do. And so that's really what you have to uncover. What is that strategy? Are they listening to music? Are they doing push-ups? Or how are they hyping themselves up? Do they already have a belief that the contract is already signed and the money is in their bank account, right? You have to get into their mindset because I'd often say, even when I'm pitching, I already have it in my head that the money's already there. Because so the first time someone even calls me, I already put it in my forecasting projection, that person's name, this much money already in my bank account. I know what it looks like, sounds like, feels like. So when I go into the pitch, it's already happened. It's already happened into the future. Okay, I'm going to go on a little rant. You know how we could easily go into the past and relive certain situations, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So we're already traveling into the past. Who says that we can't travel into the future and already put a goal into the future? We're just waiting for our body to physically show up. If our mind can time travel into the past and into the present, into the future, you're already traveling. So if you already set your desired goal for the future, it's already happened. If you act like it's already happened, that it's already there, then there is no question. There is no doubt. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
And it makes more sense for you to decide what it is that you want and focus on exactly what it is that you want versus, let me leave it up to fate. If you decide what it's going to look like, sound like, feel like, then you've already created your future.
Yes.
You've just unlocked your future.
And so to that point, a few things. One, I love how you already take some of the things out of the equation. You set it aside so that you can essentially just play and just be in the moment. Because I do know from a selling standpoint, I know, that is a challenge that a number of people have. And they make it like, I need to close this deal or else, and
what is this energy you're coming into this call with?
Exactly. So that's the energy that you're having, which means that again, the actions that you're going to do and the energy that you're putting off is going to be some that might repel people. And you're like, and then you afterwards like, I said all the things, that Stephanie and Gary said, I did all the objections, but they didn't still, say yes. Well, if you put that pressure on yourself, you're unconsciously going to be bringing an energy that maybe is the energy that is going to be like, that the other person's like, I can't put my finger on it, but like it just didn't feel right.
Or sometimes, have you ever noticed that sometimes when people are pitching, like they all of a sudden like they become a different person, and you're like, who was that? They're like, that's not me. I'm the playful, I'm the fun person. How all of a sudden did like the essence of me disappear as soon as I named my price? And again, and that's another thing too. Can you communicate with clarity and with confidence that you charge premium prices and not flinch? Because if you're like, well, it's this, and it's like, oh, are you asking me or are you telling me?
Right? Yeah, you have the question inflection at the end of it, and then they like, and then again, all these things, people pick up on these things unconsciously.
Yeah.
So they, they go back to think about it, like, I don't know, there's just something didn't feel right, and so they're like, oh, hey, it didn't work out. So what I'm advising you all to do, again, goes back to like the thing that I love the most is play. Stephanie has been mastering this for years. She can go in and boom, like that, like step into the right state and commend these things. You're not there yet, but that's not a bad thing. You have to be willing to play the game. You have to be willing to put in the reps. We can't just go to the gym one time, do a few bench presses, and like, all right, cool, I'm ripped. Rock. Yeah. Hey, let's get in the ring. No, it's not going to happen. You have to be willing to not have it work out the first time, and tell yourself that, like the belief that I said, hey, there's no such thing as a mistake. Failure is just first attempt in learning. Yes, this is where all the beliefs and the values come and play together so that you have the ability to learn and grow. But if it's just like, is the one time I tried it and it didn't work. And that's what most adults, like, let's just be honest. Let's take it out of the seriousness of making money and losing money and stuff like that. Let's put it into something else, like a new hobby. And because, we've all been, in our adult selves for however many years, we're not used to being back in that childlike mindset, that sort of beginner's mind. And so, I know sometimes and I'm the play guy. I am guilty of this too. I'm like, I get something like a new magic trick. I see someone do it and I'm like, all right, cool. And I tried a few times and then it doesn't work. And then I'm like, oh my God, and then I'm like, oh, all right, you know what? I'm just not going to do this. And then no wonder I don't master it and I don't get better at it, because I again unpack these things. Maybe it's I need to get it right the first time or else it's not worth doing it. Well, if you think about anything you learned, unless you're Stephanie's extremely gifted, and I think it's because she is the baby in her family. So she's had so many references, so she can pick up on things very quick. I'm not blowing smoke up her ass. Stephanie does pick up on things extremely fast, and she's had siblings, that modeled things. And there's a lot of studies that show that the younger kids, the second, the third ones are the ones that learn so fast because they have examples. I was the firstborn, and I was the mistake on everything. And then my middle, oh my gosh, she learned quick. She learned how to walk very fast. She learned how to talk very fast. And then our baby sister is like, what? Anyway, so I digress. So it goes back into your mindset on learning and getting better. And so again, I'm going to use another example, since playing cards for me is an illustration of play. When you play with something, you essentially get more time. You get more time to do it over and over again. So that, all right. That is it. So
that is not it. You're the best. You're amazing. Here's the net of it, right? The same consciousness that created the problem cannot be the same consciousness to solve the problem. You need different strategies, values, beliefs, and attitudes to get to where it is that you need to be. So what are you going to do differently in 2023 that you didn't do in 2022?
Yes. What is it? Put it in the chat. Let us know. Declare it. What are you going to play with in 2023 to help you become the person that you want to be? And so, yes. Oh my God. So the question for you, Stephanie, since time flies when you're having fun. Again, it's another belief. Time flies when you're having fun, which can be dangerous because not everything is meant to be fun. And so I have to remind myself of that. But seriously, we have 6 minutes left, and it felt like that. But Stephanie, so when someone is going through, and maybe they're getting that sort of inkling of oh man, whatever they call it, I call them Gargamel or whatever, that voice in their head that is sort of hey, you can't do that shit. What's a technique that they can do to neutralize that voice so that they can, start to get clarity and do the work? Anything up your sleeves?
I'll give you an easy one.
Yes.
So if a voice like that pops into my head, right? Right. It's just like,
Look at her. Look at her. Oh,
it'll
this
be
is
like,
amazing.
I'm not good enough. I will step out and be like, who said that? And push them away because I don't want them where I'm sitting. It's like, do you remember the movie Ghost? I'm like totally
Yes.
timing myself, but it's like an out of body experience. Or even if you watch Doctor Strange, it's like, boop, get out.
Right.
It's like exercising a demon that was just like, who said that? Who said that? Because that wasn't me. That's not what I believe. Who said that? So that's one way that you could do it. The other one too, and you and I have learned this before, but when I hear that voice, sometimes the voice of I'm not good enough, maybe it sounds so serious and it has like this effect on me. And so I need to distort how it makes me feel. And so I'll plug my nose and I'll hop on one foot and I'm like, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And I'll spin around in a circle. So that way it actually sounds so stupid that if I ever hear it again, it doesn't have the same effect on me, And so what we call that in NLP, it's distortion. You're distorting a strategy that is currently in play. And so you're doing a pattern interrupt. So as soon as you hear it, it's like, I don't know, it makes me laugh versus making me feel stuck. So the first one, again, that's really easy is you just step out of what that feeling was and you push it away. I physically just push it away. I'm like, who was that? Like, what? That's not me. I'm confident. I know money comes to me easily, effortlessly. I know that I'm good enough, right? Like I'm one of me. So that's an easy way to do it. And the other one is to distort it. And so you and I think you had done this at one of your retreats. It's like we plugged our nose and I'm not getting it. And we hopped around on our foot and it sounded so stupid that it was just like, I will never say that ever again because you completely distorted it. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And again, if you were at the retreat, that was one of the strategies that we did. And very powerful. And we heard it here. So I got a confirmation from a Jedi master that she's over here, that is what we need to do. So again, two heads are better than one. We put it together. That's how it is. So we're at time. Stephanie, first and foremost, let me just take a moment and say thank you so much. I really appreciate you. You are like family. And I'm so proud of you. I've seen you grow over the years. You are such an amazing human. You help so many people. You're an amazing mama to Emma. And I am honored that you are in our circle and willing to give us so much value. So thank you. And then I would love to put the spotlight on you and give you a moment just to talk about what you got going on, where people can find you. Yes, absolutely. The floor is yours. And then April's going to come back and wrap it all up. And we're going to be done for the year.
I love it. All right. So here's what's happening. So as you know, I'm the CEO of Captivate on Command. My purpose is to help you ignite your ideas, be brilliant in the boardroom, and captivate on the command so you can be the best version of you. And so if you're interested in anything about NLP communication, your user manual, uncovering what your strategies are, I mean, to be honest with you, our next NLP training is going to be April 2023. So if you want 7 days, that's all it takes, 7 days to completely rewire your brain so that way you could get from point A to point B easily and effortlessly, come hit me up, captivateoncommand.com, or reach out to Gary. Gary knows how to get me. He has my direct phone number. That's how you know when you have my brain on speed dial.
Right. I could send a text message. And then that's what's up. Oh my gosh. I'm going to put it into the chat. The link to Captivate on Command with the next thing. Seriously, hit her up, follow her. She throws so much wisdom and humor. And we are at time. We're going to bring this plane into a soft landing. April has been behind the scenes, running the boards.
Just having my mind blown. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for coming and doing this. And it's just always so great to hear different perspectives from different people. So, and also to highlight people in our community. So those of you who are in the ASC, the Accountability Success Circle, make sure, she's in there. Feel free to hit her up if you need to chat more or have any questions, ask her about her offerings and all that stuff if that interests you. And then, we are the Accountability Success Circle. We've been around since how long, Gary? 2017-ish?
2017.
Yeah. And we are a community of people who are committed to making sure that you get stuff done, but have fun in the process. And we've got some really amazing things happening in 2023. We're making a few transitions. And this is an opportunity, if you are watching this on YouTube and are not part of our community currently, you can join the Accountability Success Circle for 3 free months. This is not what we normally do. Check us out. We're going to be covering some really amazing things pertaining to all the different areas of your life, and just even in the first 3 months. And then hopefully you'll stay longer because there's just so much value. And but come check us out. And this is our end of our year. So thank you so much for those of you who were in the chat checking us out. We've got some other people watching. Brandon is here. And so and we will
don't be all bashful.
You've been watched this entire time. No. But yeah, thank you for all the amazing conversation in the chat, and we will see you in 2023. Yay! See you guys.